Caitlyn Clark, Team USA, team captain. No doubt about it, MVP, 100% most valuable person is what Caitlyn Clark is, the most valuable person. You look at this, folks, I want to go over this. Christine Brennan, she spoke out again. USA Today, she says, wow, we just can't get it right. The Team USA photo came out for the new people that are going to be playing, the new players they're going to be playing. It's a very, very interesting list. One thing caught my eye, Team USA, no Brittany Griner, or Brittany Griner, but no Asia Wilson on that list. That was somewhat surprising. But I want to go over that and really talk to you about Team USA, women's basketball. Caitlyn Clark, team captain. Caitlyn Clark, MVP, most valuable player of Team USA. The women have been shocking in the offseason. They've come a long way. They gave us an awareness speech in the first couple years that I've covered the WNBA and activism of what they believed and what they believed they should receive. The women have spoken loudly. But then came along Project B, and all of a sudden everything you believed in, everything you wanted is no longer valuable. You want the money and not the growth of the women's basketball game. Caitlyn Clark, Christine Brennan is stated very obviously. Caitlyn Clark is the face, the global icon of women's basketball, of women's sports. But it seems that the WNBA still wants to fight the process. Shocking to be heard as to the men who play Team USA and for the women who play Team USA. Looking back at it, where did all basketball start, or where did all basketball begin? If you look back at it, the history of James Naismith of coming in there at Indiana, but that wasn't the start. The start went all the way back to Iowa State as the origin of the women's game, of the men's game. But what the women did in the state of Indiana is they started the women's basketball, college basketball existence. You're going all the way back into the 1800s. And you look at this now, and you look at where we are today, we're in America, and I look at Aguma K, the sisters who are just preaching and preaching and preaching. But one thing that's really caught me, being born in San Francisco and being a citizen of the United States, you're from Nigeria. And what your beliefs and your family and what their beliefs are coming from Nigeria, you have to realize you're in America. And when you're in America, we do things differently. We don't have a choice. As Money Mike has told you, the pecking order in America. It's a white male, it's a black male, it's a white female, and then there's a black female, right? So when you get into this and who's going to be on Team USA in the photo shoot and what you put out, they haven't really understood the fact that Team USA is being built out for Caitlyn Clark. You can tell me whatever you want to tell me. You can circumvent it. You can go a different route. However, the market of women's basketball, who's going to be able to broadcast that? Well, NBC, anything that's global, NBC is prepared and on deck unless they don't want the rights. Why am I talking about this? Because this potential of growing the women's game of basketball has had its growth stunted. It was stunted on Team USA last team. And here's what really gets me. And it's nothing against the person, but I want to speak about it. Paige Beckers was awarded the Rookie of the Year. Paige Beckers has been slotted in on Team USA. If you remember just a couple years ago, Caitlyn Clark couldn't sniff or wasn't good enough, or the players were too good. And now Paige Beckers gets an entry into Team USA. And it's shocking to me because it was a debate over the Rookie of the Year as Caitlyn was playing, but now Beckers, who's on the worst team, gets Rookie of the Year. It doesn't make any sense. And food for thought, just for you those, Paige Beckers a great player. They keep running her at the point guard spot. They're going to shorten her career. And that's just the load is too heavy and the body's going to break down. But great player. I mean, 100% great player. But you look at the players that they're not taking, right? You got Enrique out there, the All-Star MVP, can't get a vote. You got Rennie Howard out there, can't get an opportunity. So again, it just lets me know that when you get to the agenda of what the women are doing or how they're going to go about it, it's cautiously mismanaged. And here's the challenge of it. The investment in the Team USA will be the largest investment that's ever been made in women's basketball. Why? One, Caitlyn wasn't on the team. Two, Caitlyn wasn't able to participate due to the injury. And now what do you have? As Money Mike mentioned to you a long time ago, Caitlyn Clark's going to be playing Team USA. Everybody looked at me and said, "You're nuts. WNBA players don't do it." Where are we at now? This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Folks, I always tell you, it's my opinion. When it turns to truth, I've given you the facts long before they happen. This Team USA I saw a mile away only because they've got a major challenge with the WNBA. The WNBA players, the WNBA media is overstepping bounds, and really they want to slot Caitlyn Clark somewhere. But now that you put that photo out, now everyone else has to come over the top. And what I mean by come over the top, it's time to put up Caitlyn Clark's billboards. It's time to put up her jersey shoot. It's time for her, Caitlyn Clark, to really put the money on the wood, make the betting good. What does Money Mike say? Let's give all these players numbers. Let's line them up and let's start selling Team USA jerseys because Caitlyn Clark is the most valuable player, right? And when you look at most valuable player or MVP, that's what everybody wants to see as basketball. I'm talking about the most valuable person is Caitlyn Clark to the WNBA. I will be very upfront and honest. The WNBA without Clark will struggle. There's 100% that needs to be quantified here, and here's what's not being quantified. 50%. That's right, 50% of the WNBA attendance is because of Caitlyn Clark. So you take the numbers, the average attendance of the WNBA, and you cut it in half. Okay, and this has been going on for a long time, and people have spoken up about it, and really they're just getting to the point they're getting tired of it because the face of women's global basketball is Caitlyn Clark. It's not any other player. And to come up with an excuse that, well, she wasn't on the team, so therefore she can't have her picture taken. Folks, you're bamboozling and hoodwinking the people. The WNBA has a golden opportunity that's passed itself by. The WNBA that used to be in existence, and people ask all the time, they're talking about coaching. They're talking about women coaching. They're talking about women coaching in the NBA. Folks, I'm here to tell you from the origin of the NBA in 1946 until today, okay, which you have almost 76 years of existence of the NBA, and then you have the women's game, which the origin of the women's game, you're 30 plus years into the game. There is a huge gap within the coaching of the WNBA, and it was brought out by Sophie Cunningham, who really just, Sophie, I love Sophie because Sophie's just honest. Sophie says, yeah, a top 8th grade boys team could beat a WNBA basketball team. You're 100% correct. Folks, you can even go down to a top 6th grade boys team if you needed to, because if you get all the top players in the country together, folks, there's 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6th graders and 7th graders out there, and they're tearing the rim off the cup. The game is advanced so much, but the coaching is such a wide gap between the NBA and the WNBA. And folks, I'm not talking about Becky Hammon or anything that coaches. Becky Hammon went and coached the San Antonio Spurs. When you look at the San Antonio Spurs, that's the buttercup team of the NBA. Now, if you would have took the Clippers, or if you had the Brooklyn Nets when they had Kevin Durant, right? They got Kyrie Irving and James Harden. First thing out of their mouth, they don't need a coach. The biggest challenge the women are going to have finding out, because they believe you can read a book, you can have leadership, teach you that book, and you can go apply it to an NBA player. Folks, that's far-fetched. These guys are way advanced. So the coaching that the women, or even Becky Hammon, who knows, has to give, you have to be way in advance. Becky Hammon went over there and coached the G League team. That's a hand-picked team. You haven't got to the knuckleheads of the NBA yet. Folks, you got about 50 great players in the NBA, and you got about another 400 knuckleheads. They're tough to manage. All right, I mean, I can go back years. Don Nelson and Chris Webber, they were going to kill each other, right? Latrell Sprewell was going to kill the coach, choking him out, right? And these guys are not in the same boat. They're breadwinners for their family, right? And I hear people talk about things, and when you get into coaching and injuries, and why does the NBA have all these? NBA is not worried about injuries because the next man up is just as good as the man on the floor. I mean, I'm going to tell you this, with John Morant, when he leaves the Grizzlies are still going to win. The next man is up. And what happens if we can't get the next man up? We'll get the best person out of the G League. It's a whole different league. And when you have 150 players, you're going to go to 180 players. That's my point, folks. If you got a player that's dominant, right? Because if you look at Team USA men, who are you going to have? You have Cooper Flagg out there. Cooper Flagg is a dominant ball player. And Cooper Flagg will lead Team USA 2028. There's no doubt about it. But the point I'm making here, I want everyone to understand that Christine Brennan is really driving home a point just to say, why can't we just get it right? Why is it so difficult for the WNBA to promote Caitlyn Clark as the face of the WNBA, as the face of global women's basketball, and as the face of 50% of the fans' attendance? At some point, there's going to be a train wreck, and everybody who's with us has an opportunity to be a great member of the WNBA. See, it's no longer, the WNBA does not look at this organization as a privilege. And that's where people believe they can go coach from college women's basketball to coaching an NBA team. Folks, that's not possible. The knowledge of the player, the knowledge of a 6th grade player, the knowledge of an 8th grade player is going to be equivalent to the knowledge of the WNBA player. The men are so far advanced. It's not the things that you're teaching the women, you're not teaching the men. So when you get in there and you coach men, okay, it's different. And I want to say that because Becky Hammon's, really, everybody's thinking it's so easy. It's not. And when you coach the San Antonio Spurs, that's one of the better run organizations. That's like the San Francisco 49ers. There's a few teams you can go to, the Milwaukee Bucks. You can go over there to the LA Lakers. I mean, it's hard to coach a player worth $1 billion, folks. LeBron James is worth $1 billion and knows you will be gone and fired before I will be gone. So I don't need to show you any respect, and I don't care, or I don't give a damn about your leadership. These guys go through real life battles, and you haven't been in there where you've seen a player supposed to play a game, walking in at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, okay, and he's still partying, but he goes out there and gets you 35, right? That's going to be hard for the women to really accept. And then the other one for that WNBA players, and people won't talk about this, but I'm going to tell you, if you put a female coach in front of a male in the NBA, they're going to want to sleep with the coach. These guys are not human, like regular bodies running around. They're playing a physical game, and they really rely on a coach's knowledge. And that's why when you look at Steve Kerr, and you look at Lacob, who has the Warriors, okay? Lacob moved and said, I'm taking full responsibility for the Bakaris, right? I'm going to take 100% on those, and I'm leading this franchise to a WNBA championship. You take the Warriors, right? He's got other people, his other partner, you take the Warriors, you deal with that. This WNBA team's going to win a championship. Why? Because Steve Kerr is his coach. Now, anybody in the WNBA can match Steve Kerr's coaching resume. And what do I mean by matching it? Steve Kerr played for Lute Olson at Arizona, championship winning coach, winning championships. Steve Kerr came out of that, went and played for Greg Popovich with the San Antonio Spurs. Okay, you got to understand, that's the greatest mind that's ever coached in the game. He's had 2 coaches that have been the greatest mind that have ever coached in the game. I want you to think about that, right? And then he goes and plays in the Olympics. He's playing for another great mind. So the point I'm making is you get Steve Kerr, who plays and has played this game, has played pro, played for Lute Olson, right? He gets an opportunity, played for great Popovich, and then he finally goes and gets the triangle, and he's got that from Phil Jackson. So how much of that would the women get from their coaches that they have in the field? It's not going to be there, folks. And there's such a big disparity. I mean, a lot of people believe that you can read a book and coach a team. You have a lot of reporters who actually have never played the game, and they can read a book, and they can go off of analytics. But here's the problem. The analytics only work on the offensive side of the ball. And that's why you hear people only talk about, or reporters talk about the offense, because the defense, you're going to have to play the game, know the game, to understand the game, to play the right defense, whether it's in Major League Baseball, whether it's in NFL, or whether it's in the NBA. You're going to have to learn that. You're going to have to adapt. There's people who do it. I mean, I've seen one coach only had a high school, right? But he was really, really good. I mean, you're talking 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000, right? So if you took all the WNBA coaches, maybe 1, 2, could be a head coach, right? And when you look at Don saying, go take the Knicks, I mean, Don would have to go win an NCAA men's championship first to really have the pedigree, because the players are too advanced. And one thing that Don's not going to be able to teach is the post. So you're going to have to go hire somebody to do it. This is the point I'm making, Coach. That, folks, the game is so much large in disparity between the men and the women. And in what has happened, the women, the reason the WNBA has not grown in the last 30 years, because they own it, they don't want to share it, and they don't believe anybody can do it better than them. But here's the problem. In the last 2 years, everything that I've watched happened from WNBA players, from WNBA coaches, WNBA management. I can give you a list of 30 things that will destroy the game before they grow the game. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Folks, I got a heart and desire. I got a heart and desire for players. I got a heart and desire for change in the WNBA. So my good friend in North Carolina would always say, people, 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 right? There's just, you got to say to yourself, people, 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 are you getting the memo that you have a golden opportunity to work with the most valuable player, Caitlyn Clark? And I'm not talking about player. I said it, but I'm talking about to work with the MVP, who is the most valuable person in global women's sports that can take this game, and her fans, who's bringing 50%. I want you guys to think about that for a little bit, that Caitlyn Clark is bringing 50% of the fans to the WNBA. That's the increase, and you're rejecting the art that's been sent to you, and now you want to go and say it can be done. You want to reject the commissioner that the league has been built. Now you can say it's going to be done better. But here's my question. Why didn't you do this over the last 30 years? What made you get so smart that you can destroy it? Sometimes, folks, I can tell you, anytime you reach a high level of intelligence, you're borderline schizophrenic. And you're not going to find any winners, and you're not going to find any losers. You're going to find yourself in a very, very dark place. Gumakeys, they're in a dark place right now, right? They're in a dark place when you start coming on and making these kind of moves, and you never cared about the people who just want to play in the WNBA. And I repeat, folks, there are players, women professional basketball players that do not want to go overseas. They do not want to participate in other leagues. They just want to play in the WNBA. And here's what you're going to have. You're going to get a lot of voided contracts, because at the end of the day, as an NBA owner, man, oh man, I'll tell you what, if you're under a max contract with me and you get injured in another league, I'm going to void your contract, right? Because I'm not going to put you on the shelf when you should be playing for my league, but you went over and played in another league and you got injured. You went over and played in a rival. You didn't get injured in the WNBA. So the medical disability and all the liability, that's on a rival. That's on Project B. You don't come back here, hobble around the court and expect me to pay you. No, no, no. Folks, this is some misguided information with the WNBA. I go back to Christine Brennan. She said the fix was in. The WNBA was not ready for Caitlyn Clark. I got news for you. 2 years later, I've been covering the WNBA inch by inch. They are not ready for Caitlyn Clark. The rookies, the last 2 years of draft pick, and this next year is stronger than the last 2 years, are the players, the WNBA players who are going to carry this league. Folks, you give the WNBA 5 years of drafting. When you have this complete turnover and have the players who are complaining and arguing out of this league, you know what you're going to have? You're going to say to yourself, you know what? I think we got ifs and I think we got buts. And for everybody, it's all going to be a Merry Christmas. Money Mike will tell you all things are possible to those who believe, but the WNBA and the way they're fighting the godsend, the ark that's been brought, the golden goose, the money bag, the one who has opened doors that you never would have been able to walk through, that's the one you want to leave off. Folks, this is about jealousy, right? This is about pride. And next thing, this is going to be about destruction. These women could have made history if they would have just done things the right way and not care just about themselves, but caring about the children, caring about families, caring about the cancer patients, caring about the individuals in the hospital. See, it's more than just being a player, okay? Much is given, much is required. And I will tell you this, as any WNBA player, any professional player, okay, that I've actually worked with, there's one thing they always say the same. You know what? We could have did more for the growth of the game. The WNBA players, once they leave this game is going to grow. There's nothing you can do about it. And I'll give you the next prediction, and I'll tell you this because this is going to change and really be an interruption to the WNBA. I'm going to tell you that just in a second. Women's softball. Money Mike wants to talk to you about women's softball. I want you to understand something about women's softball. That's going to blow by women's basketball. It's going to go by like a storm that you have never seen before. They're already playing. Stanford's putting teams in stadiums drawing 40,000 fans. Folks, the next game, the WNBA is reaching its final chapter because what you have is a trend. And the trend that you have, if I looked at it correctly, reminds me of the dot-com bubble, right? You've got a lot of people jumping in the fire, but they're not educated at the business acumen of what the projected losses will be before you get to projected earnings. There's no way the WNBA players can look WNBA owners in the eye and say, look, I understand you lost $30 million a year with the WNBA and keeping the team afloat. Boy, that's a big number to swallow. And then to come back and say, well, you know what? You're going to pay us what you owe us. You're not paying us. These things here, folks, I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of things in life. I've covered a lot of games. I've covered the Niners, the 49ers, the Kings, NCAA basketball, NCAA football. There's only one origin group, and there's one leadership that makes things work well in professional sports. Folks, professional sports must be ran like a paramilitary operation. Every boot, every step is in line. Team USA are about the men and the women, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the U.S. Marines, Homeland Security that protect this country. That we're playing a game to show honor to the men and the women that serve each and every day. Folks, when you're in the United States military, there's no calling in sick and there's no days off. You take the duty, you take the assignment. In life, you can have two choices. You could be looking right down the barrel of success, but you're somebody who wants rights and privileges. But the other person looking right down the barrel of success, they see duties and responsibilities. The United States military is about your duty, your responsibility, and it's an honor and a privilege to serve. That's what Team USA is about. And still today, in her apologetic and how much she loves this country, and she openly stated, I know and America knows Brittany Griner's name should not be on that list. Brittany Griner went to prison. God is relieved. We gave up a high personnel security prisoner for Brittany Griner. But the bottom line is this. Brittany Griner has not represented the USA in the correct fashion. Brittany Griner's name should not be on there. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Folks, it's open mic. It's off season. You come back to me with what you believe. I'm just telling you here right now that this thing here is really out of control. And I think the Gumakeys are out of control, talking about coaches, talking about black coaches, talking about female coaches. Well, they're trying to turn this ship around. They're hiring men because they don't want the relationships. I've been on this for a minute. They're not interested in your love and relationships. They're interested in the game of basketball. Caitlyn Clark, 50% of the WNBA fans that have come because of Caitlyn are only interested in the game of basketball. At some point, the rubber is going to meet the road. Money Mike tells you it's my opinion, but when it turns to truth, I've given you the facts long before it's happened, and this situation here is amazing that they continue to believe they can do this without Caitlyn Clark. I hope you enjoyed the show today, and I always promise you this. I always try to bring you something new, and I always will tell you, in my opinion, but if it turns to truth, I'm giving you the facts long before it happens. Folks, this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. All things are possible to those who believe, and we will see